Then I informed the Honorable Minister then that I was going to call Fatuma to ascertain why would she call one of my staff to go and identify a piece of land that is under my custody without telling me. Then I called Fatuma, she apologized that yes, she made a mistake, she should have done so, but moving forward, she would never engage one of my staff again without letting me know. So we leave that matter to rest. Subsequently, we received this letter that we should ascertain the portion of land that was left, which we did in a subsequent letter to the ministry. And that letter was also sent to the ministry. And then at the end, we were copied in an allocation letter signed by the former Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Tourism and Culture, Mamadou C. Diouf, that this land was allocated to Operation Save the Baby Foundation.
Was it normal for the PS to do the allocation?
At that time, executive directive was given and the land allocations was reverted to the Ministry of Tourism and Culture. We were not allocating land.
Okay, it was the ministry that was allocating
It was
land.
the ministry that was doing the allocation.
What would have been the proper procedure for applying for this land?
The proper procedure would have been to send the application to the Gambia Tourism Board with all the necessary supporting documents. The Gambia Tourism Board at the time had a lands committee which was dissolved. But prior to its being dissolved, the land committee was responsible for assessing applications for land for allocation within the TDA. If the lands committee deemed it fitting that this applicant has successfully completed or fulfilled all the requirements, then it will do the Director General will do a subsequent board paper and the board now give a final approval. The proper procedure would have been the board being the highest authority to allocate land as far as that Gambia Tourism Board was concerned.
Once the board allocates or approves the allocation, then what happens?
A letter of allocation will be communicated to the applicant for a successful application or otherwise.
Who would communicate?
Gambia Tourism Board, through the Office of the Director General on behalf of the board.
But you said during this period that authority was taken away from you.
Yes, and was given to the ministry.
So what would happen in that case? We just want to be clear.
In that case, what happened is that when we were asked to identify the land, and we were written to ascertain the dimensions of the land, we wrote back to them.
No, what I want to understand, you know, you have told us what the process
should have been.
But during this period, you have also said that allocation had been taken away from GT board and resulted in the ministry.
Yes.
Now, what would happen? Would it still go to the board during that period?
No. It doesn't go to the board.
So the ministry had authority during that period to allocate land to anyone it wanted?
Well, my understanding is that as per the executive directive, they deem to have the authority to do so.
As per which executive directive?
From the executive directive.
There was another executive directive.
To say, yes. But this, at the time, I was not at the board. That's why I have my colleague with me. They have who has an institutional memory as what has transpired for the transfer of the allocation of land from Gambia Tourism Board to the ministry.
But during the period of the allocation of this land, you were there?
I was there.
Was any other land allocated during this period?
Not that I can recall of, because we had series of issues on land matters, because when we had investors that come in, most of the land that we thought were free for allocation were land that were already encumbered by the former president. So we could not allocate land.
What do you mean encumbered by the, did you say by the former president?
Yes, because we have most of the lands that whenever we allocate land, we were told that the land is committed.
Committed how?
Committed in the sense that the land was not free for allocation.
Why wasn't it free for allocation?
Because according to information that we had at the material time, most of these lands were taken over by the former president.
Sorry?
The information that was reaching us is that most of those lands were taken over by the former president.
Didn't you have a record of it? Why did you have to wait for information or seek information? Why were you not aware that it was already allocated to the former president?
When I came to office in 2015, just prior to my arrival, we had constituted a committee to support us identify all the lands that are said to have been committed to the president. We conducted a study, and the study had proven and showed us areas that the president has already committed to himself or the Kanilai family farms. So based on that map, we then realized that we do not have any more land to allocate for investors. So we stopped.
How big is the TDA in terms of hectares, if you know it?
There are 9 TDAs. But only one.
There are how many TDAs?
9 TDAs. 9 TDAs. But TDA 1 is
TDA
the one that
is Tourism Development Area.
Tourism Development Area.
Okay. So.
But the only TDA 1 is currently leased to Gambia Tourism Board. All the other TDAs, the process is on to get the lease and delineated for tourism development by the Ministry of Local Government and Lands. We are working on it. The process has not completed yet.
The coastline.
This is, I'm referring to TDA 1. Yes.
The coastline is TDA 1.
Yes. From Kotu all the way to Kato.
From Kotu to Kato.
Yes, it's TDA 1.
That's TDA 1.
That's what we are referring to here.
And this is the one that we are talking about.
Yes.
Do you know what percentage of TDA 1 is was allocated to the ex-president?
According to the map we have been able to establish with the support of the team, the technical team, was about 34% of the TDA was taken by him.
34%?
34%.
More than 1/3?
The one that was listed, available space. Okay, he's correcting me. He said the 34% is actually what was available and the rest was leased to him. No? The rest was leased to him.
34% is what is available.
And the rest of the TDA was leased to the...
That's 67%.
Yes.
Does this include or exclude already existing?
34%.
Sorry. Yes. Oh, we are not clear on this.
Oh, sorry.
We are not clear on the percentages. Can you be clear, please? What percentage
I'm trying to
hold it. What percentage of TDA 1 was taken over by the ex-president?
I think 34%. 34%.
Thank you.
So the percentage that is leased to the president is 34%?
Yes. At that material time, we were not privy to the leases.
Yes.
We were told by the committee that was working on the mapping out of KFFs, we call them KFFs, Kanilai Family Farms, land within the TDA. But we were not privy to any of the leases until now.
Okay. So you were told that 34% was committed to Kanilai Family Farms?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, we will, of course, in due course, wish to see all your maps on this issue. But can you put together the sublease and the documents that you exchange, the correspondence between yourself and the ministry and any other institution with regard to this sublease that was allocated?
Yes, we have those documents. Yeah,
let me have the original of the sublease. Okay. No, sit down. It's okay now. We'll collect it. And can we have the documents as well, supporting documents? All the correspondence that you referred to.
I think in the envelope that we have submitted this morning, there should be more supporting documents in that envelope.
There's a bound document that we gave back. I think it's there.
We tried to put all of them.
It should be on your desk, yes. All right, thank you.
Now, Mr. Haidara,
yes.
The 34% is in KFF's name, Kanilai Family Farms' name. Is that what you're saying?
That was our description. That was our description at the time we were doing the study. But later on, when we saw the publications of the lands that are committed to Jammeh within the TDA, we saw some are leased in its name, some under KFFs. But for issue of reference for our working document, we call them KFFs.
Yes.
Kanilai Family Farms.
They're all related.
They were all related.
As far as you know, the ex-president or KFF, were they involved in any activity that looked like tourism development? As far as you know, because that was the purpose of use for that area.
Well, from the time I assumed office in 2015 to date, I have no correspondence that tells me this land was taken for an activity that was related to tourism. It may have been, but I may not be aware. Because I do not receive any communications or otherwise to say the land taken or committed by the former president is for a tourism activity.
And even the records prior to your advent as Director General, there's nothing on record showing it.
The only record that I have seen and can ascertain is the Operation Save the Baby that was coming as an executive directive from the Office of the President.
Was there any tourism development in the Operation Save the Baby Foundation's activity?
Not that I'm aware.
Thank you.
Just before I apply to have this admitted, I would like you to confirm that this land has neither been committed nor allocated since it was surrendered.
No, ma'am. The land is there.
Mr. Chairman, may I apply to have admitted?
Your last question, we missed it. What were you trying to confirm?
That this land that was allocated and for which the sublease was returned to GT board is neither committed nor allocated to anyone else.
It has been returned to GT board. Thank you.
You call this the original, but I observed that it doesn't have a serial registration number.
Does it have
a serial registration number from the Ministry of Justice?
Well, perhaps that have been an oversight on our side. The head lease is given to us by the Minister of Land. So what we are doing now is issuing subleases. But the subleases, we created our own internal serial numbers.
I see. But this is the very document that was
This was the
surrendered.
very document that was given to Operation Save the Baby and was surrendered.
You are not requiring the sublessees to have this registered at the Ministry of Justice? Because all subleases have to be registered since I don't know whether your institution is aware of that. You are not registering these subleases, is that what you're saying?
Yes, we have not registered it. Perhaps we should register it.
You should, otherwise there won't be no public record of your subleases.
Absolutely, ma'am.
Mr. Chairman, may I apply to have admitted the original sublease that was granted by the Gambia Tourism Board to Operation Save the Children Foundation, dated 25th August 2016, and bearing SRN GT Board TDA SL002 number. A copy had already been admitted as MS 156A that applied to have this admitted separately under the SC series. I'm also applying to have admitted all correspondence relating to the allocation and subsequent issue of the sublease.
correspondence relating to request for land allocation in the Tourism Development Area, TDA1, between Office of the President on behalf of Operation Save the Children Foundation and the Ministry of Tourism and Gambia Tourism Board. Admitted Mark SC 73A. Sublease bearing internal registration number GT board stroke TDA1 stroke SL002, but not registered at the Registrar General's office and dated 25th August 2016 and made between Gambia Tourism Board and Operation Save the Children Foundation. Admitted Mark SC73B.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to be a little clarification on the 34%. Is it 34% of the entire GT board allocation? Let me just say GT board lease for the first area one. Did you call it the area one? What did you call it?
Call it TDA1.
TDA1. Is it, when you say 34%, is it 34% of TDA1?
Yes, we are referring to TDA1.
34% of the entire TDA?
Yes.
Or 34% of the unallocated land in TDA1?
Unallocated land in TDA1.
What percentage of land is unallocated in TDA1?
It's allocated.
Or was allocated before this KFF allocation?
We didn't do a detailed study to ascertain the lands that were allocated. The purpose of our study was to safeguard ourselves from coming in contact with land that are already committed to Gambia.
I see. And you determined that 34% of all uncommitted land is committed to Gambia?
Yes, according to the sketch map that was produced.
All right.
Sorry. For further clarification, TDA1 covers the entire coastal beach area.
From Kotu to
From
Kato.
Kotu to Kato.
Yes.
Now, as a matter of interest, how about TDA2? Where is it located?
I cannot right now give you the correct geographic coordinates of TDA2 and the other TDAs because this is very technical and I'm not a technical person. But I can confer with my technicians to advise me, then I can put that record straight.
I see. And that's the case with regards to TDA3 up to TDA.
We have 9 TDAs.
Sorry?
We have 9 TDAs across.
That's what I'm saying. All the other TDAs, you cannot tell us their approximate location.
Yes, because these TDAs were identified through the Tourism Development Master Plan. But they are yet to be delineated according to and gazetted by the Ministry of Lands and the Ministry of Gambia Tourism Board. So because of that has not been done, I am not comfortable to making any statement that is contrary to the actual facts.
Thank you.
Yes.
On the criteria for allocation of land,
Yes.
do you have the top two?
Do
What
I have
determines who gets what in TDA1?
What determines two?
Who gets land?
We have a list of criteria that has to be fulfilled by an applicant.
Just the top three, please.
You must submit a business plan with at least a concept note of what you want to do. You must provide evidence of funding, that you have the money to be able to carry out this project.
Do you call it evidence of what?
Funding.
Funding.
Yes.
3.
And you must have a body incorporated, like a registered company also for the business.
Did you get any of that for Kanilai family farms?
We never allocate Kanilai family farms.
But you were aware they got it and they didn't submit these?
Yes.
The question is not whether you gave them. The question is, did they submit any of these based on what you know?
We have never received any application from Kanilai family farm for any land within the TDA.
So it was arbitrarily taken?
That's the correct information that we was given, that the land was committed to him.
And in contrast to what you find in other countries in the sub-region, this area is usually allocated to top investors.
Yes.
Because whatever is constructed along the coastline has actually some good influence in attracting investors.
Yes.
As far as we know, Kanilai family farms didn't have any money to achieve such beautification or attract whatever investors. Do you have any records of whatever funding they have that could have fulfilled this purpose?
We did not, simply because we had never received a single application from Kanilai family farm for land within the TDA.
Good. But in terms of your objectives for reserving land in the TDA area and giving it to potential investors, did Kanilai family farms possess any attributes that can fulfill those?
I'm not quite comfortable to say yes or no because I've never reviewed.
But you are in the market, Mr. Haidara.
Yes, I'm in the market, but I don't know the dealings, the affairs of Kanilai family farms.
Based on their activity in the country, or whatever activities you are aware of. Because as the head of the TDA, it's always desirable, or actually it will be a plus if you are able to say this company or this investor is good or bad.
Yes.
Granted, you are not involved in the allocation.
Yes.
But from your knowledge of the market,
yes.
Did Kanilai family farms have any attributes that can help this country achieve whatever purpose the TDA was meant for?
The difficulty I'm having, sir, is that I have never done a due diligence on the ability of Kanilai family farms to be able to do any project within the TDA because they have never applied for any development within the TDA. If they had, like I do with my other investors, I carry out an internal due diligence to ensure that this person applying for particular land X or land Y will be able to do so.
Fair enough. As at this moment, they possess land that could be reallocated to better investors.
Yes.
What is it going to take for you to do that necessary due diligence?
Now, since the dawn of the new government, we have reinstituted our lands committee. In actual fact, we've gone a step further. We have now what we call a lands technical advisory committee. This committee review application vis-a-vis on the land.
You're not going to get any application from KFF. But what you do, you are not going to get any applications because this is already a done deal.
Yes.
What you do need to do is to determine whether it's okay for them to have it or not based on the future plans. Yeah? So, yes. You are not going to get any application so that your new committee will have to do a review.
Yeah.
You're going to have to now do that review to determine whether or not they should have this land. They should keep it. They already have it. The question is, if they keep it, will it achieve the purpose? Now, is the properties they have, are they part of your plans or whatever identified properties you have that the review is going to be done on?
Certainly, we will not review any of the lands for allocations to Kanilai family farms, but we are reviewing applications that when the land revert back to Gambia Tourism Board.
Why not?
Pardon me?
Why not?
Because
why will they not form part of the land you're going to review?
Because they have never given any indication of an interest to us as a body that they are interested in any tourism development.
So why should they keep it?
Why should they?
Keep it. They already have it.
Well, I don't. Should they keep it? Should they keep it?
No, I'm asking why should they keep it? They're not asking your permission. They already have it.
Yes,
the question is, are you okay with them having it?
I am not okay with them having it.
So why not do a review, just in case the question comes up?
Even if I were to do a review, the entire land that the KFFs have, I don't think it will be fair to give it to an individual, one company or otherwise. I have, right now, as I'm sitting here, I have 27...
No one is suggesting to give it to an individual. What we are asking is, are you, in your proactiveness, including them under whatever is going to be reviewed?
No.
Because based on your explanation, you need an application.
Yes.
So if you do not review, it will continue to sit with them until you get a court order or whatever saying reallocate to other individual. We're not saying to one individual. So my question was it part of your activities to reassess whether this should be with them or not? If the answer is no, we're going to put it aside, we're not going to touch it.
Okay, my colleague wants to say something. Can I allow him?
He's not on the oath. He can tell you and you tell us.
Sorry, Mr.
Sorry.
If I may just explain that we're going to be dealing with all the land allocated to KFFI to give them a fair opportunity to come back on each and every allocation.
Okay, that's fair.
Yes, that will be all right. But I don't think they are listening. You'll put it to them later.
Yes, his concern is that currently we have 27 applications, and 10 of them have been already assessed and they qualified for investment. And these are 5-star and 4-star hotels. We cannot allocate because the land is sitting to KFS by way of the leases. So once we're able to undo those leases, we will definitely allocate to these genuine investors who have the money and are ready to invest in the country. That's what he was saying.
Okay. You've been given the chance to go look at whatever you have and come again. That's what council was saying. So you don't have to answer any land-related issue now.
Okay.
Until you are okay, yeah? So, but our interest was what will happen to the land, this 34% that was taken by a body that we know does not meet all these 3 criteria.
Can I state my honest opinion in this?
Please.
We believe that all the land that were taken by the KFF should revert back to Gambia Tourism Board. Because this land are leased to Gambia Tourism Board by way of the head lease of TDA 1. If I may go by extension, I was invited to address Cabinet on the challenges of the TDA by my Honorable Minister and the Permanent Secretary. We addressed Cabinet on these challenges. And we had a Cabinet conclusion that had conveyed that all the lands that were taken by KFF should now revert back to GT Board for us to assess and allocate them to investors who are capable of developing this land. The challenge we are having currently is that these lands that are leased to him are now part of the assets that are frozen by the Commission or by the High Court. We cannot get access to this land. But once the Commission defreeze or unfroze these lands, investors are sitting there waiting for land to be allocated.
That's fair enough. You've answered the question anyway.
And there is nothing stopping anyone from applying for the defreezing of the assets you have referred to insofar as the TDA 1 is concerned. That is information for you.
Thank you very much, sir. I think this is an opportune moment for me to just exactly do that.
All right. Very well, Counsel. You may proceed.
I don't have any further questions. You would be required, since you don't have details of the allocation, you'll be required to work with the investigators to reconcile your records with the title documents that KFF has.
Thank you.
Okay. All right.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Very well, you may go. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I call Mr. Chernambalo.
can read after me, sir. I swear by the Almighty Allah.
I swear by the Almighty Allah
That the evidence I shall give to this commission.
that the evidence I shall give to this commission
Shall be the truth.
shall be the truth,
The whole truth.
the whole truth,
And nothing but the truth.
and nothing but the truth.
So help me Allah.
So help me Allah.
You can wait for the instructions, sir.
Do you kindly state your names, please?
My name is Cherno Ablai Mbalo.
Where do you live, Mr. Mbalo?
At the moment, I'm not home.
Where do you live?
I live in Brikama.
You are a civil servant?
No, I've retired
When did you retire?
in 2014
From which institution?
from the Department of Agriculture.
Please sit down. How long did you work at the Department of Agriculture?
From 2008 to 2014.
Where did you work before that?
Before that, I worked at the Civil Aviation as internal audit manager.
As?
Internal audit manager
For what period?
from 1996 to 2005.
And between 2005 and 2008?
I was not employed then.
What capacity did you serve in from 2008 to 2014 at the Department of Agriculture?
I was head of agribusiness.
What was your role?
Well, my main role was to coordinate all business activities of the Department of Agriculture.
What do you mean by business activities? Department of Agriculture was involved in business?
Well, not business per se, but we did training we trained farmers in business management, cooperative development, and we were also responsible for the registration of cooperative societies at the same time.
Registration of, sorry?
Cooperative societies.
Cooperatives.
Yeah. We are also responsible for the audit of these cooperative societies. And an added task was we were the focal point for the Japanese aid to the Ministry of Agriculture. Of course, that is the government of the Gambia.
During the period you were head of agribusiness, who was the director of the department? You had a director?
Yes, we had a director general.
Director general?
Yes.
Who was the director general?
During that period, we had one Bakari Sonko, and then subsequently Seth Drame.
Bakari Sonko as director general?
Yes.
Then Seth Drame.
Then Seth Drame.
Did you take over from anyone as head of agribusiness?
Yes, I took over from Bakari Sonko.
The same Bakari Sonko?
The same Bakari Sonko, yes.
Okay. Oh, he became director and you took over from him
Yes.
as head of agribusiness?
Yes.
Right. You were summoned in relation to the Japanese grants to the Gambia, which, according to the records we have, date back from 1998. That predates your time.
Yes.
Now, unfortunately, we've not been able to get all the records yet. So, but we will talk today about the time you were there as head of agribusiness. Can you tell the Commission what you know about Japanese grants that were being made to the Gambia?
Yes. I started work, as I said, in 2008, but then I was not For that particular year, I was not responsible for the Japanese aid per se.
Who was responsible that year?
Bakari Sonko.
Okay.
Then from 2009 to 2014, that was when I was responsible. Now, the grant is an annual thing that was granted to the government of the Gambia, and the Ministry of Agriculture was the agent responsible for receiving this aid. Now, the aid is mainly granted in cash by the Japanese, but then there is an agreement between the government of the Gambia and the Japanese that this cash would be handled by one of their agencies called JICS, Japanese International Cooperation System. They are procurement specialists in Japan. So the cash would be transferred to this agency, which in turn would procure the rice or other agricultural inputs that are required by or are requested by the government of the Gambia. And the consignment on arrival is normally cleared by the ministry's stores department. They would do all the customs, clearance and receive the cargo from the ports, and subsequently, at the same time, would deliver this consignment to the private sector, namely here the Kanilai Group International. During my time, that's the only company or private institution that received this commodity for onward sale to the public. It is also agreed that all the sales proceeds should be deposited at the central bank. So for each year, there is a separate account operated at the central bank, where all the proceeds are lodged by KGI directly to the bank. So
now let me just, in relation to this arrangement before you go on, between agriculture and KGI, was the arrangement instituted when you were there, or did you find the arrangement in place?
No, I found the arrangement in place. Actually, this was the prerogative of the permanent secretary. He would make such arrangements. As I said from the beginning, I was just the focal person, and of course had an idea as to what are the processes, to be carried out during the.
Were you given an agreement when you came in 2000, when you took over the project? You said in 2009, when you took over as focal person.
Yeah.
Were you given an agreement between agriculture and Kanilai Group International?
Yeah, there were agreements signed by the PS and staff of the KGI.
During the period that you were there, from 2009 to 2014, can you tell us how many consignments of products came and what type of products these were?
From 2009, in 2009, because the products are normally in two forms. The grant would be in food aid on one side, and also in some cases it's food security aid per se. With the food aid, that's directly rice or flour that is bought and sold to the public.
You mean wheat flour?
Wheat
for
flour,
bread?
yeah, wheat flour. Now for the other part, it's agricultural inputs, such as fertilizer, herbicides, etc. You know, but during my time...
Sorry, fertilizer and herbicides.
Herbicides, yeah.
Okay.
But during my time, there was only fertilizer and flour and rice aid. That was in 2009. In 2010, there was another consignment of rice. 11, there was also another consignment of rice. And 12, there was also a consignment of rice. Now, these years are based on the dates of the negotiations, because as you can see, some of the commodities are received subsequent to the date that they are actually assigned. You know. So I cannot remember exactly when they all came in, you know, the sequence, but 2012 was received in 2014. You know, that one I clearly remember. You know, and 2009 was also received thereabout around 2010. So normally after the negotiations, you know, it takes some period of time to get all these processes done. That is procurement by jigs, you know, and the shipment to the Gambia, etc. You know. So these were the consignments that I witnessed: 2009, 10, 11, and 12. 4 consignments.
The last consignment before you left in 2014 was in 2012?
Yes, 2012.
Can you tell us, we are retrieving and trying to put all the documentation in order, and we will have you back, but we just need to understand how the process worked. What was the arrangement between your department and Kanilai Group International?
No, well, my department had no direct arrangement with Kanilai. It was the permanent secretary which had these arrangements of agreeing to give them the rice for sale to the public and subsequently to deposit the proceeds at the central bank.
So what was your role as focal person?
As focal person, I was mainly the link between the Japanese and the ministry. That is, whenever there were activities that were coming up, I will be notified and then inform the permanent secretary if she is not or he is not informed directly as to what the next activity should be with regards to because even when they are doing the bids in Japan, we are informed and we follow up, you know, and see how the bids are being decided, and finally who in Japan has won the bid and how much in terms of tonnage are we going to receive for that particular year. You know.
So basically this Japanese agent would be responsible for all the procurement?
Yes, jigs.
So, and then they would send in the consignment?
To the Gambia, yeah.
And then that's where the Gambia comes in. Then we are responsible for the consignment.
Yes.
And KGI was subcontracted to sell these commodities, whatever it is, and deposit the money into central bank.
That's right.
Is that correct?
That's right.
Is KGI required to pay the money to agriculture and then the money is then deposited to central bank, or KGI pays directly to central bank?
No, it's KGI direct to the central bank.
Okay. Can you tell us what the accounting process was with regard to the sale of these commodities by KGI?
I don't understand exactly what you mean.
How is it accounted for that so much has been given to KGI,
yes,
and so much is expected to be paid into central bank, and how much is actually paid into central bank?
Yes, with regards to the price, the Japanese would always put up a minimum price. Then the ministry would look at it, and because they also incur costs in terms of handling at the ports, etc., and also commission for the seller, that is KGI. The ministry would, top up that minimum price, and that is what they would indicate to KGI would be the selling price. Now, when the commodities here, the stores and the ministry, the stores section, they are the ones who receive this commodity from the shipping agents at the ports. And at the same time, the same trucks that load on this commodity are the ones which actually would also deliver directly to KGI. So at the end of the exercise, the stores would reconcile with first the shipping agency as to what has actually been received, and then they would also reconcile with KGI as to what was delivered, and then they would sign that reconciliation statement. This is what is used in drawing up any contracts between KGI and the ministry. So KGI would then be selling and depositing at the central bank. Now JICs would come, some months later to look at the whole process and see, get some statements from the central bank and look at, the accounts and see what has been deposited and what has not been deposited. They would send the ministry a report indicating that the deposits are short or they are actually been properly deposited. So there should be always that information available that is sent by JICs, to the ministry.
You mentioned the delivery process. Ministry of Agriculture then owns those trucks that receive the commodities and delivers to KGI, or are they KGI trucks?
They normally subcontract the delivery to other agents within the Gambia here, who would be responsible from the ports to deliver this commodity to KGI. We have had Mr. Jaite, one Salif Jaite, who was responsible for, I think, 2 or 3 of the consignments. He has been receiving them and then delivering to KGI.
Let me just rewind a little bit. It's a matter of public record now that KGI, Kanilai Group International, was a company belonging to the ex-president.
Yes.
Now, do you know how KGI International came to be the sole agent, at least the sole commercial subcontractor for selling these commodities?
Yes, I remember in 2009, the ministry invited other businessmen. I remember Saiben Mahdi and Gum Food. Well, they were invited to a meeting and informed that the ministry was expecting rice and flour, and it would want the private sector to be involved in the sale of these commodities. After the meeting, it was, we were informed in writing that Saiben Mahdi declined the offer, and subsequently also the other companies that were invited. Well, KGI was also one of the companies that wanted to be part of the process. So since the others declined, I believe the ministry decided then to give it to KGI.
KGI, did you say KGI was one of the companies that was invited?
Yes, it was one of the companies that was invited.
Now, but you had said that when you came, the arrangement with KGI was already on.
Yes. I think this was just to really regularize the situation, because 2008, it was given to KGI, but we do not know what was how it was done. But when it came to 2009, it was decided to actually get other people involved. Even the Japanese had said we should make it open to other people to participate in the process. But unfortunately, these companies I mentioned declined the offer.
They did not want to be competing with KGI. That's just an aside. Now, if you have
for good reason, because it was taking them on a collision course with the owner of KGI. Well, do you believe it was a fair playground? Well, what led to their decline?
I suppose
declining.
They didn't go far enough, because when the offer was made during that meeting, we had not reached any sort of details as to how it would be sold and the price or what their commissions would be. But within that week, we received a letter from Saib and Mahdi declining the offer.
So the terms were not clear to them?
Well, at that time, yes. We just mentioned that there was this commodity and the government would want the private sector to get involved. That's why they were, invited to this meeting. It was just an initial sort of meeting to actually inform them about, the intention of the ministry at that time.
So it was a meeting where they could declare their interest?
Yes. I don't know, the reasons, I can't remember, but they wrote, and explained why they would not be able to get involved. It should be in the file.
But as far as you know, the terms and conditions were spelled out clearly to them.
No,
they wanted to participate.
Not at that meeting.
Not at that moment.
No, not at that meeting.
But they didn't want to even go to the next stage.
Yes, I think maybe it was their own volition. They decided not to go ahead, but they were invited anyway.
Thank you.
You mentioned that KGI earned a commission as the contractor. They earned a commission.
Yes.
How was the commission fixed?
As I said, the price that was fixed was based on the minimum price determined by GIGS. And then on that basis, the ministry would add on their own costs, which they incur in terms of handling, and then they will put in a commission for the...
KGI sold the commodities in the market.
Yes, and that's the price that I'm talking about now. Because that price would include all the costs that are incurred by the Ministry of Agriculture, plus the commission to KGI. So KGI wouldn't fix any other price. The price they would use should be the one that they would give it. Because that includes their commission and also all the costs that are incurred by the ministry.
All right. This supply from Japan to KGI, during the period that you were there, was it audited?
No. There was an audit prior to my coming over, yes. There was an audit by August Prom. That was for earlier years.
Up to what year?
No, I can't remember.
You cannot remember?
Yeah. But I know there was an audit by Augustus Prom.
The Japanese did not require annual audits?
They gave a time limit. For each of these projects, they would determine when an audit should be carried out. So unfortunately, during my stay there, no audit was carried out. But the time is always fixed by, for each project, the Japanese would determine that, by so and so date, the project should be audited.
On the payments between KGI, or payments from KGI to Central Bank.
Yes.
Can you explain that process? KGI would just sell and go to Central Bank
and pay? Post, deposit the cash, because when the Japanese are here, we would make requests for the bank statements from Central Bank. Then we would determine for each project how much has been deposited.
Right. Now, where reconciliations were carried out, I understand. The conciliations were carried out.
The reconciliations I mentioned here are on receipt of the consignment between the stores and KGI, and the stores and the shipping agency.
What about between the reconciliation of the amounts paid by KGI into Central Bank?
No, there was no reconciliation.
Was there, let me just rephrase. KGI was supposed to deposit into Central Bank.
Yes.
Were you involved in determining whether all the monies for the consignments have been deposited?
Well, as I said, this is only derived from the statements, because from the contract agreement, we would determine the value, less their commission.
Yes, but were you involved in making sure that the money was actually paid into Central Bank?
No, we didn't make any follow-ups with KGI per se, definitely.
You did not make any follow-ups?
No.
Who was responsible for making follow-ups with KGI? Was anyone responsible?
Well, no, I wouldn't know, but I know that the PS is responsible for the whole process. So that should be the responsibility of the accounts section of the ministry.
You have an account section?
Yes.
Very well, yes. They will certainly be given. Do you know whether there's ever been any queries from the Japanese as to the monies that were expected to be paid into Central Bank?
Yes, from their reconciliations, looking at the amounts that should be deposited and what has actually been deposited, they have made mention of shortfalls of deposits that should have been made. Because one of the contentions between the Japanese and the ministry has been these deposits, they call them counterpart funds, have not been deposited fully in terms of some of the projects. Some have been met, but others have not been met.
Counterpart funds. So by some have not been met, meaning KGI did not deposit all the monies that they were supposed to deposit from the proceeds of the sale of the various consignments.
That's right.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I don't have any further questions today for Mr. Mbalo. We are trying to reconcile all the documentation. I'm afraid there are quite a lot, so that we have the entire story and are able to determine the shortfall in terms of the monies actually deposited.
Very well, you may go, and we'll rise for 15 minutes.